Welcome to another Seesaw Scenario with Eric and Mark Playground Rules podcast. Let's start with something that should humble all of us. Nobody in their right mind can compare themselves to the perfection of Jesus Christ. And yet there's a pattern, something worth examining, because even he wasn't accepted the way people expected. The expectation gap. The people of his time were waiting for a savior, but not that savior. They wanted power, dominance, spectacle, a cool kid. What they got instead was humility, truth, and disruption, and because he didn't match their expectations, he was rejected, challenged, and ultimately killed. Let that sink in. The modern parallel. Now bring that forward. There are people walking around today with winning ideas, clear, valuable, even transformative ideas, but they don't package it in the way the world has been conditioned to receive it. They're not the coolest kid, they're not the loud voice. They're not the personality people instinctively rally behind. So what happens? What happens is the seed never gets planted. Now, to blow it off by saying that these people fail because they're introverts would be a factual fallacy if we mention that Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, and Jeff Bezos were all introverts. So how did they do it? How say you, Mark?
Eric, I'd like to say this is a very, very important topic. I can understand how the topic could be very sensitive to people because really it affects all aspects of life. To your point, starting with theology, but at the same time, or religious beliefs. At the same time, it pretty much affects every aspect of our lives, professional, personal, and anything else that we might be involved in. Even if we're delivering information to somebody, right? Like if a medical professional, for example, is delivering information to a patient or a patient's family, how are you going to package that information? How are you going to deliver the message? For example, if the family member is terminally ill or the outlook isn't very good, very, very sensitive information here. And the way that we want to deliver it, of course, we definitely have to consider which angle to approach that, how it might affect people, etc. The thing is with Jesus Christ is that, again, this is open to different religious beliefs, this understanding. But you have people, to your point, who have been conditioned to believe a certain thing, a certain way of life, a certain understanding of the world. All of a sudden, somebody comes in and tells them, well, wait a minute, what you thought you knew, what you thought was true is not, in fact, exactly so. So then the first thing that happens is that people, I think at that point, and of course nothing bad should ever happen to anybody, let alone, Jesus Christ. But at the same time, I'm just saying somebody can certainly understand that their grasp on their world as they understood it is being challenged, uprooted, in a sense. Like, people are creatures of habit, familiarity. So when you have somebody who comes along and challenges that, then it's almost like creates like a protective or defensive reaction. Now, as we've talked about before, when we've discussed theology and on a number of other topics, I do believe that this person or this entity, this being, whatever somebody believes in the human flesh, should have been listened to, should have been reasoned with. Well, let's hear your angle on things. Let's see if we agree or we have an opportunity to disagree. But we see how it is in modern society, especially, let alone several thousand years ago. People become vicious outright in a lot of sense when you don't deliver something in a specific way, or when you disagree with them, especially on an item or a topic that challenges their core belief system. Let's think about how important that is. Now, when you talk about the different entrepreneurs, let's switch gears for a second. The Warren Buffetts, the Mark Zuckerbergs, the Elon Musks of the world. I don't necessarily know their biographies to such an extent to be able to say what really worked for them along the way. I mean, I know enough about them, but I think that in their cases, they probably learned to communicate from the standpoint of stepping out of their comfort zone, or at least identifying people of saying, hey, I've got this great idea, and I'm not necessarily the person to promote it or to market it per se, but then they're able to communicate the idea clearly enough that they're able to get people involved who can communicate the idea. For example, a company that I worked for years ago had a very good experience. I had to leave that company because of circumstances, but years ago, there's basically two owners. One guy who was like an idea guy who was pretty introverted and pretty technical and friendly and approachable, but not the kind of guy to go out and promote, whatever the product or the service was, the underlying, mission statement of the company. But the other owner or the other partner was extremely extroverted, did not have a whole lot of technical knowledge, maybe just enough to understand what was being promoted, but was much more of a people person, going to seminars, going to exhibitions, networking, meeting people. So you have a person who has the kind of more like the more like, I guess you could say, intellectual capital from the standpoint of what's being invented or the system that's being developed. Another person who's more the entrepreneurial mindset or the kind of account executive, so to speak. I think that it's really, really important that the messages that are delivered for people to be successful are inclusive. So when we say the message that Jesus Christ delivered was inclusive, anybody had an opportunity to partake. It's not like he was saying, hey, you and you can participate, but you're not welcome. He gave everybody the opportunity to participate. I think that's where the entrepreneurs, in a similar sense, really succeeded, was by making probably people from different walks of life or people with different types of ideas or viewpoints feel like, oh, you know what, this is something that we can partake in. Either working alongside of those entrepreneurs or being a client or any number of things, working for them. Now, I'm not saying all those relationships were great along the way, or I'm not saying those people were always easy to deal with, but the thing is, these people are visionaries. Whether they have visions about the world from a theological standpoint that they're trying to communicate, or from a business standpoint they're trying to communicate things like health initiatives and that kind of thing. Of course, the money helps, but these people end up having a lot of reach. These people have a ton of reach, probably because they've been willing to grow themselves. They've been willing to stand by what they believe in, and maybe they could have been contentious at some point or whatever, but they drew people because those people wanted to work with them. Despite maybe some kind of introverted personality tendencies, these people did want to work with them. So they helped them to promote their message, to promote their product, their service, their entrepreneurial idea. I think that it's very, very important for us to always be willing to listen to others, because somebody somewhere has an idea, maybe among us, maybe among our family members, our friend group, that has an idea that actually could be not only very successful, but can actually really help people. And I think that sometimes, especially in circles that we're familiar with, those circles become very closed. Like, oh, what are you talking about? That's never going to amount to anything, is kind of the mentality, And whether it's banter or just not taking members of the family too seriously, or the friend circle, I really, really believe that every idea deserves to be heard, deserves to be communicated respectfully, distinctly, and then kind of do a feasibility study. Is that idea something that somebody can partake in? Is that something that they can sign up for, that they're willing to contribute to promote, etc.? So yes, I think that a huge number of the problems we have in humanity today are because people are not willing to listen to one another, and even the ones who are willing to listen to one another, they are unfortunately in friend or family circles of people who don't have an appreciation for how information is delivered, which is very, very important. I think that's where the emphasis needs to be.